Okay, Coach. Let's just start with the obvious. You're off to the best start in program history. How's it feel being 12 and 0?
Yeah, great. Winning is hard no matter what and no matter who you play. And when we were trying to figure out a preseason schedule, and you're building a program, you want to have a nice mix of, good competition, but also building some confidence and, showing just progress with wins. And so probably not thinking we would be undefeated at this time, but we'll for sure take it.
And going back to when you guys were here at Morgantown, um, the especially that first game against North Dakota and then against Liberty, those were some real kind of gutted out, gut check games. But since then, it's seven sweeps in a row. I mean, you haven't lost a set in nearly 3 weeks. Is the team just clicking on all cylinders right now?
Yeah, I think gaining some confidence from those tight matches has helped. And then, we've just had a really good showing of many different players. And so, if somebody's not having a great match, we're able to rely on somebody different. And you can probably see that with how many different players we've had on like all tournament teams and things, to that nature. So I think we're pretty balanced and, just still trying to get better every single day.
And you mentioned confidence. And I think it's interesting. It's not like you tore the team down this offseason and it's all new players. I mean, it's a lot of the same girls from last year. Just how much does confidence make a difference?
Yeah, just, I think playing those, tough sets against Liberty and North Dakota really helped too. We were able to come back and Fairfield as well. And, um, again, I think, some skills in volleyball take a little bit to develop, setter hitter relationship and passing always and blocking always take a little time to get going as well. So we're just trying to, um, get ready for Big 12 play, and there's still a lot of get things to get better at.
How much of this is just the girls that were here last year naturally are better, right? And just naturally got better over the offseason and this is kind of reaping the rewards.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we work really hard in the spring, especially on fundamentals. And, I don't think you can be successful in the game of volleyball or in any sport really without, focusing on fundamentals. So they've worked really hard the last, spring and throughout the summer. Most of them were here in the summer working out on their own or as a group, without coaches. But, I think they've really committed to those little details and trying to get better every single day.
You mentioned Big 12 play starts. How different is conference play? Not just because you expect competition to be better, but you go from playing 3 games in 3 days to now, like you go out to Cincinnati, you play, you come back.
Yeah, I think every coach is like, oh, thank God, we're finally in conference play because, putting together scouting reports and playing so many matches back to back to back can be tough.
Okay. And then what? The other thing you mentioned is it's not like you have one, two, or three star players. Um, it's been a whole team effort. And looking at your stats, second in the Big 12 in hitting percentage, top 10 nationally, third in the conference in blocks, top 21 nationally. I mean, those are things that aren't individual. Like those are the team stats. How do you get that consistency out of a group of girls?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's that we're pretty balanced offensively. And that's what we really like, that, a team can't just key on, maybe one outside hitter or a middle. We are able to really spread our offense. And when you can do that, then if you can put the ball away and isolate your hitters, your hitting percentage is going to go up. And um, same thing, I think blocking actually, comes from the service line. If we can be tough from the service line and make them predictable, our blocking numbers are going to go up. So it's all pretty intertwined. And yeah, I think we're doing a really good job, our setters, of being pretty balanced
Mhm,
offensively.
mhm. And then, Coach, I've heard you talk a couple times, most recently at the soccer game, about your five core values. Are you willing to, I guess, disclose what those are?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, a little background is Dick Bennett took Wisconsin basketball to the Final Four, and then he came to Washington State with his son Tony, and he had these five core values. And so when Burnett and I started coaching together at Lewis Clark State and NAIA school, we asked him if we could use these. And he said yes. And so we have actually used these five core values since 2007. So every recruit that's ever played for us has heard these five core values and, has had it as part of the team. So they are passion, unity, servanthood, humility, and thankfulness. And we have our kind of own definitions, and it's not only on the court but off the court. And we try and, just relate them to what we're doing every single day. Passion is probably what we think the most important. Whatever we're doing, we want to be on fire, whether that's out in the community, we're working camp, we're playing, we're practicing. So, anytime things are good or bad, we kind of fall back on these five core values.
It strikes me none of those are like sports specific, right? I mean, that's those are more like just how to live your life.
Yep.
So how does that? I mean, obviously that goes towards building culture and everything, but how does that sort of bleed into success on the court?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I kind of talked about the passion, like,
Right.
no matter what we're doing at practice or in a match, having that passion. But, something like unity, that's really big for our sport. That's our definition of that is better together. And if you can be unified on the court in the 30 by 30 space and in the locker room and outside the locker room, then your team chemistry is gonna improve. Thankfulness for us is learn from each circumstance. So whether that's something good or bad that happened, we can learn from it and make changes. So, we do, take all these and apply them to sport. Servanthood is lead by giving. So, we have our captains, but we also, a middle blocker can, literally pull a blocker with them and, leave the other hitter one on one. And, for us, that's servanthood. She's not getting the numbers in the stat line, but she just did something for her teammate. So, um, and humility is know who we are. And that's really about being coachable and knowing your strengths and weaknesses. So yeah, we definitely apply them all to sport as well. But it really starts with just the culture of our team and our players and who we're recruiting.
Mhm. And then the other thing I heard you talk about at soccer was kind of getting the girls to really take ownership of this program and buy into it. And obviously it's worked, but it hadn't been a very good 3 years before this year. How do you get how do you get players to come here and buy into that it's going to
Good
get
question,
better?
Cody. Good question. We don't know. If you have the answer, let us know. Um, you know, that is a little bit of our pitch. I think, what I talked about at soccer is be the change.
Yeah.
You can go to a program that's already established and you're just going to be, another number, or you can come here and do something that has never been done before, which, we said once we broke that school record, like, hey, nobody can take that away from us. We broke a school record. You were part of it. You came here to help really build the foundation. So that's something that's pretty special. But yeah, a program that hasn't been successful, we're not going to get, super high level recruits yet. So we have to train, we have to, get people that have some potential or maybe, transfer wise, maybe weren't playing at their old school as much as they would like, but we have to see that potential in these players and coach it.
Mhm. And obviously, Jen, you're no stranger to building a program. I think when you got here, everybody immediately looked at all the Washington State success. Um, but maybe what they didn't realize is that took, 4 or 5 years to build to that. Um, do you see that? I mean, does this kind of start remind you of any point during that start at Washington State where it's like everything is it's falling into place and you're seeing the improvements?
Yeah, I think building a program is something really special, and it's not for everyone. It takes
Mhm.
time and patience. You know, yeah, it's hard to tell. I mean, I think back in the early days at Washington State, the transfer portal really wasn't a thing.
Right.
You were recruiting like 3 years out. So it took a long time. I hope it doesn't take as long now, but also everybody's a lot better at volleyball around the country as well. So a lot of competition out there. Um, but I think Burdette and I learned a lot from building a program. And we built a program before that too at Lewis
Right.
Clark State, So we're probably crazy for trying to do it again. Um, but it's a special feeling. I think you get to see a lot of improvement, right away. And then as you get better and better, you have to get really into the weeds and figure out, what are the next steps of um, making the jump. Obviously we had a great preseason, but now, it's really tough and into conference. And I think the Big 12 is improved
Mhm.
as a conference from top to bottom from last year. And so it's going to be tough. Hopefully, people are patient with us. Can't promise anything from here on out, but I just know that we're definitely getting better every single day.
Real quick, speaking of Burdette, the video that the team posted when you guys went to 11-0, you kind of scoped out in the locker room. The players were going to splash some water, and you got out of there, and it looked like he caught it all.
Oh, I think the players know not to get me. I've got my boots on,
Right.
Um, so they were pretty cute. They had kind of asked, and I was like, "Yep, just let me go in the door first, and I'll get out of there." It was probably the fastest I've moved in a while. So,
I'm not sure many teams ask coaches to do the Gatorade that.
well, it gets interesting when you haven't won a lot, and
Right.
they,
Oh, right. Yeah.
you do have to learn how to win. Your team has to learn how to win, and like, what can we do? What can't we do? We don't want to. So. Yeah, I think they were great. Even if they would have got me, we still would have been happy about that too.
All right. And then just to end off, you mentioned getting into conference now, and this is what matters. Um, has it been hard? Maybe not hard, but like, have you guys just been so eager to get back home during all this? I mean, I'm sure you can see it on social media or just in how people are talking. Like, there is a little bit of excitement around the program now, but you've been on the road for almost a month. Is there some eagerness just to get back home in the Coliseum in front of the home crowd?
Yeah, I think I mean last year we weren't at home at all until
Right.
like end of September. So at least we've, have had the privilege of being at home for a weekend. Yeah, I think, it's getting to the time of school and the weather's changing and things like that yeah, we'll be excited to be at home for a couple of weeks, but first things first, we really are just laser focused on one match at a time. So we're excited for this trip to Cincinnati.